Dr. Heidi, thanks for meeting with us again. It's so lovely to have you here. Um, you were away last week. What were you doing?
CrossFit, the New Zealand CrossFit semi-finals, hoping to get into the New Zealand team. So we'll know in a week.
We'll know in a week. Oh, that's exciting. Okay, well, in the meantime, we're going to discuss seasonal allergies because we've just had a change of season. It feels like it's definitely dropped here now. What are you seeing at the moment? We're seeing a lot of increased comments about like my dog's now itchy, or my dog's got eczema, or my dog's got dry skin. What are you seeing?
Yeah, all of those. So often the seasonal change does affect our pets' health and their well-being, particularly our dogs and our cats. But using natural treatments and nutrition and holistic principles and good lifestyle principles, you can really dramatically improve the quality of life for those dogs and cats.
Yeah, totally. So what are you seeing the most of?
Number one is the seasonal allergy, particularly in dogs, but cats do
Yeah.
suffer from seasonal allergies as well. So pets can react to things like grass pollen, pollen from the tree, believe it or not. So if you
Yeah.
see on your car, the windscreen, and there's that yellow wattle type
Yes.
pollen, then that's around in your area. That's something to be aware of. Certain weeds at this time of year create a lot of allergies in pets. Dust in the house, mold, unfortunately. Obviously, it gets cold. We get condensation in our bedrooms, and then you'll get a mold build-up on the windows. So really good to keep those nice and clean. Flea bites this time of year is still not quite cold enough to kill off that flea life cycle. So we see a
Mm.
lot of allergies to fleas. And then people will often hit their house with a lot of environmental type chemicals. So they might be using a lot of cleaners and fragrances. Sometimes they use those Glade plugins. They'll use zappers and things in their kitchen, and sometimes obviously those things drift down into the pet's food and water bowl, and then we'll see them with allergies. And just food sensitivity in general will often show up in this change from autumn to winter. They have a lot of common signs of allergies, including licking their feet, licking their paws. They're really itchy, super
Mm.
itchy, particularly in their feet. They get really hot red ears. So if you
Yeah.
pull back the pinner and have a look at the pinner, really good idea is to take a photo on your phone of what normal is. And then if you have a
Yeah.
look at the ear flap, the pinner, you can think, oh yes, gosh, that is redder than usual, more inflamed. That'll give you a tip. And then often
Yeah.
they'll also rub around their face. Recurrent ear infections, we see a lot. Hot spots, we've talked about
Yeah.
before, rashes, itching, and then all their belly and their groin, they tend to overgroom and get really, really itchy when they have seasonal allergies.
Yeah. So with this seasonal allergy, like it's different to the gut. Like we can't say like everything. I know like we talk a lot about the allergy coming from the gut, but with
Mm.
this seasonal allergy, like how are you best to tackle like, oh, you know that at the change of season when that wattle dust comes out, my dog's gonna
Mm.
get absolutely irritated with that because I know
Mm.
like I know about that too. Like what am I best to do there? Like not take them on a walk? Like that doesn't seem feasible. Like what are the best options
Mm.
for you?
Well, you're right about that. So the skin is often the reflection of internal inflammation.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fact that they're going on a walk, but great point about what to do for itchy feet. So if your dog has a
Mm.
known grass allergy, when they get home, you just have a little foot bath soak.
Mm.
So I can give you a recipe for that. There's a really nice and easy little recipe for a foot bath soak. You can also just put a teaspoon of pet putty in warm water and
Yeah.
pop their little paws in an ice cream container, dunk those off, pat them dry, and then those spores and mold and pollens are off their feet, so they're not going to be licking them and then reacting to those things. Um, Wet grass is often worse for dogs
Oh,
than
yeah.
dry grass. And then obviously areas that have got a lot of pine pollen, wattle pollen, wandering dew can be particularly
Yeah.
terrible, and stingy nettle. Those things are often, really, really commonly found when dogs are licking and chewing their feet. Those are good things to think about when you're, trying to avoid dogs flaring up at that time of year. But the solution to pollution is dilution. So even if they do get it on their skin and their coat, bathe them.
Yes.
Bathe them twice a week if you need to.
Yeah.
Good old magic water.
Yes.
Get it off the skin, pat them dry, sunshine, and then, as I say, some pet putty or some spray for their feet just to settle that down is a really, really good idea. But grass allergy and inflammation in dogs is extremely common in our New Zealand dogs because they walk barefoot through wet grass and pollen. And you've got to remember fertilisers and herbicides. And unfortunately, a lot of councils still use the known carcinogen, glyphosate, Roundup, highly toxic, has been linked with cancer in dogs and people. And the dogs will walk on that, and then, of course, they lick their feet, and that's really unhelpful for their gut microbiome because it decimates their microbiome. And their microbiome represents 90% of their total body's immune system, which is what they need to have a normal immune system and not overreact to normal seasonal allergies.
It's so interesting, like just hearing you talk about all of those seasonal allergies or external factors that we can't change and they are impacting our dog's health. Yeah, it's like with the Roundup, you know, like you don't know what your council's spraying. Like, I think the key thing I just took there was the bathing, like giving a shower more regularly. As humans, we shower, like, you know, once a day, twice a day. Like, give your dog a bath all the time. Like, cleanses their skin, gets rid of irritants. I think a lot of people overlook that.
And look, it's a big job to bathe a really large, particularly fluffy-coated breed like a golden retriever. Yeah. But you can give them a Swiss Army shower, the same as we do ourselves. So face, feet, and bums.
Yes.
With a flannel, nice clean cotton flannel, no detergent, wipe off their feet, wipe their faces, wipe their ears, and then just wipe down the side of the coat. Wouldn't even take 1 minute. And then the whole of the coat's not affected. But of course that pollen is on the outsides of the coat. Often it's not deep into the coat. And when you're bathing an allergic dog, it is actually one of the most underused strategies for reducing itch, secondary yeast, malassezia, secondary fungal infections, and staph secondary dermatitis, which we talked about in our wet eczema, superficial dermatitis podcast. Use it regularly in small, you know, targeted areas of changes of season where you know that your dog is going to get a recurrent ear infection or going to get a recurrent pododermatitis, which is inflammation and infection between their little pads and round in between their feet. Those are the times to really step it up and bathe them as best you can.
So let's talk about another deep seasonal allergy that we hear about all the time, and it does change with the season. I know it can be also just genetic or like it can come from food too. But eczema, like let's give us a breakdown on eczema and how we can, like it comes on, I feel like even when it gets colder, like your skin starts flaking as a human and your dogs can get really dry coats as well.
Yeah, great point. So many of our pets suffer from eczema type, you know, conditions during the seasonal change, particularly at this time of year. So the things to look for is the skin would get inflamed, red, quite moist. Often you can touch that it feels a little bit, you know, more moist in the skin. Sometimes the skin will get thickened, so we call that lichenification, or like the bark of the tree, particularly under the chin or on the points of the elbows. Sometimes a really chronic eczema dog on their tummy will end up looking like a rhinoceros, and also around their perineum, around their little bottom and down around the vulva, that can often end up looking like a rhinoceros. So it's often worse when you've got damp weather and you've got high spring pollen, grass growth and high pollen counts, and particularly in Auckland where it's really humid, that's a trifecta for, you know, molds and grass allergies particularly. And we talked about it before, but the skin is the reflection of the internal inflammation. So if you're wanting to treat external eczema, ears are skin stuffed down a little hole. And I've got a nice little model here that I've brought to show you. So that's a normal ear. So
Yeah.
we think of an ear like an L, so you can't see all the way down around the corner down to where problems are. But
Yeah.
this is a normal ear canal, and you could basically just put your finger in there and clean that. But when they have these seasonal allergies, this is what happens. So the
Wow.
skin and the cartilage and the subcutaneous tissue is so inflamed and swollen, there's no way that we're going to get down here or down here to deal with this infection that's right down there. So
Wow.
that's where treating for inflammation holistically, systemically, preventatively will help you get ahead of the seasonal dermatitis and the allergy. And again,
Yeah.
it's that gut skin connection. So going into winter, if you're wanting to avoid the seasonal allergies and the seasonal dermatitis and the recurrent ear infections and the grass allergy and pollen, now's the time to start banking and stepping it up to be suppressing general inflammation in the body before your pet is even challenged, their immune system is challenged. You want to be loading up those stores of certain things to reduce the inflammatory response.
You want to be topping up your doggy daily, really, if I want to say that. You want to
Yeah,
you want to be like, well, for us, obviously doggy daily is a gut immune booster, and it's really just realigning the gut and also just building up those immunity stores so that your dog is happy and healthy all year round. A lot of people say to us, oh, my dog doesn't need it because it's perfectly healthy right now, and it's like the best prevention is treating every day and keeping
that's
them
right.
healthy. But
Yeah.
like, talk us through some prevention tactics that you would take.
A healthy gut actually helps
Yeah.
regulate your immune system. So you're talking about immune function, you're
Mhm.
talking about reducing inflammation, you're talking about the skin barrier health, and then
Yeah.
you're talking about the allergy response. So the first thing I personally would do is that many of the pets that we see and treat for these conditions are on ultra processed food, kibble. So the
Yeah.
one thing we know for 6 weeks of the year, if your
Mhm.
dog particularly has recurrent ear infections and skin and eczema and allergies, you can improve their immune system and reduce the inflammatory cascade in the body by
Yeah.
reducing ultra processed food and changing, adding in some really helpful vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids that will help chronically, it'll down regulate that inflammatory response. It'll
Yeah.
boost their microbiome diversity, which is the probiotics, obviously, that I'm aware that's in Doggy
Yeah.
Daily. And then it'll actually decrease their sensitivity to allergens. So, highly processed food actually increases allergy sensitivity,
Yeah.
which is not helpful. So, whole food can make a really major difference to the type of inflammatory reaction that these dogs can make. So, for
Yeah.
instance, beef is the most inflammatory protein. So, when we break apart beef, it is the exact right shape in the body to make the most highly inflammatory mediators. So,
Wow.
change of season, if that's your dog, don't feed beef for 6
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Nice and easy. Add in, as we know, certain foods like fish, very, very high in essential fatty acids, omega-3, omega-6. So sardines, we want to be adding in just as treats. So canned,
Mm.
boiled, spring water,
Yep.
or dried as a treat, totally fine.
Oh.
Salmon, there's some wonderful
Yeah.
New Zealand salmon oil, salmon treats that are available. Greenlit mussels,
Yeah.
fresh, dried, or as treats. Bone broth is a winner, obviously without onion. There's a great
Yeah.
recipe for dog bone broth. I have bone broth every day. That's my lunch, and that's why I'm sure my gut is such a
Mm.
rock star. And we think it's been 4 or 5 years since I've been sick, but the staff were saying it's certainly been a very, very long time. And I'm around people all the time that have coughs
Yeah.
and colds and flus, but I never get sick, so I'm happy with that so far.
Yeah.
Eggs, very important source of protein. Add in some scrambled eggs for breakfast for your dog.
Yeah.
Blueberries, pumpkin, leafy greens, and some quality meats. So those things are really helpful for reducing inflammation, repairing the skin barrier. That'll support skin health. improving their coat quality. So a lot of dogs we see are very, very zinc deficient. And again, Doggy Daily will address that. You've got lovely levels of zinc in there from kelp and seaweed. 53 vitamins and minerals in seaweed. It's sea vegetables. Fabulous for pets and their skin. And that's what makes our hair grow so long and so strong. This is seaweed. This is what seaweed does. And when you have really, really hard nails, long hair, and you'll retain your colour naturally just by having some seaweed in your diet. Turmeric, which is in Doggy Daily. Quercetin, which of course comes from blueberries. So you can give your pet some fresh blueberries, frozen blueberries, or again, that's in your senior Doggy Daily formula. That boosts their immune system. And then we get to things like joints. So joint supplements are great. Glucosamine, chondroitin, again, bone broth. But joints really, really suffer in the change of season. And you'll see many pets, dogs and cats, even though cats are what we call closet sickies, and they'll withdraw rather than demonstratively tell you that they're in pain. It's a really important thing. You have to get ahead of the cold. You don't want to wait until it's -1, 2, because your pet's really going to be super stiff and they may show you some mobility problems. By then you're about 6 weeks too late. You want to start doing things now to preempt the cold for pets.
So with preempting the cold, I think stiff joints, or because it is seasonal too. Like, you know, summer you might not see this at all in your dog, but like come May it gets a bit colder. You don't think your dog's old, but it starts slowing down because it's just getting a bit slower in the morning, getting up when it's cold. What would you be doing as well to prevent stiff joints?
Yeah, I've got a great list of supportive care. So things like making sure you've got deep orthopedic warm bedding. I like natural fibres, so I like a sheepskin, I like a New Zealand wool rug, I like natural fibres. Polyester is plastic and it's not the same. It doesn't create the same kind of energy for your pet. It is a dead fibre because it's not real. It's fractionated hydrocarbon from petrol. So when they have oil, the carbon is listed from 1 to 10. They take out a certain section and there's a waste product. And they spin that waste product into a fibre called polyester. But it's plastic. And it's very, very unhelpful for pets that are stiff and sore. Contrast that with a possum merino woolly jersey or coat, beautiful swan dry, beautiful New Zealand wool product. The spine will be warm, the dog will be a lot more mobile and less stiff. And, you know, the advantages of natural fibres, you know yourself, if you're wearing something like a possum merino jersey, you're often just completely toasty and your back doesn't hurt. So sometimes for people, noticing that their pet is sore is difficult. So I think it's worth just pointing out, look for things like difficulty when they get up. So they go to get up, and that's abnormal. They hesitate when they want to go up steps or stairs or jump into the car. They sort of get themselves ready to go rather than just bounding in there. That can indicate stiffness and mobility problems. They're slow on their walks because they're stiff and they're sore. They really don't want to jump up. They'll often sleep more because they're resting in their joints and they're irritable. So it increases the bite risk if your dog has neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, because they just don't sleep well. They're really, really annoyed. So supportive things, holistic things, as a holistic vet that we get our clients a list of is warm bedding, heat pads. You can get exact pet safe electric blankets and heat pads from your vet, and those can be safe to be left going all the time, and often if you put them in a sunny corner as well, that's really lovely place. If you're away at work all day, you know your pet's nice and cozy and snuggly. Gentle exercise, small and often obviously if you can do it in the heat of the day, it's a little more comfortable, but gentle exercise is true medicine for many older pets. And then weight management. Please don't let your dogs
Yes.
get really obese. So when you stand above them, what you want is you just want to see a waistline. So stand above your pet, head to tail, and if they've got a little dip in the middle, like a waist, that's perfect. If they look like a pear with a wide bottom, that's obesity. And if they look like a peanut or a rectangle, that they're just one big log from top to bottom, that is also, unfortunately, overweight and obesity. So reducing the calories or increasing the exercise, adding whole food, reducing complex carbohydrate like kibble, really, really helpful at this time of year. Also, I love hydrotherapy. I mean, I'm biased because we have one.
You have one, yeah.
It's amazing. So I designed an underwater hydro treadmill and had it specced and made overseas and then shipped into New Zealand. So our old arthritis dogs can hop up the ramp, get into the hydro tank, fills up with warm water up to their shoulders, and they're walking on a treadmill with a floaty jacket on, supporting that motion, and the warm water is really, really helpful. So if you have access to a pool or you have a really little dog and you don't mind having your dog in there, that can be really nice. There's also places in Auckland like Red Dog Therapy, and they have hydrotherapy. Pet massage, really helpful. Increased touch increases blood flow. Blood flow brings nutrition and increases tissue repair. We use laser therapy, so photobiomodulation, red light lasers for dogs and cats with back pain. And then, of course, our big list of inflammatory food that we've talked about, the sardines, the salmon, the mussels, those kind of things are super helpful. And then, supplementing your pet ahead of time.
Yeah, getting ahead of it. I know. It is. All such common, sense things, but great things to refresh and sort of point out, like giving your dog a nice big rub down when you see them in the afternoon and getting their blood flowing and, giving them a little massage in the back. It's just takes 2 minutes of your time and it means so much to them. They get healed and they get their, a bit of a stretch out as well. I know, for example, Jack's just circles our house for the sun trap the whole day, he starts in his room, goes into the linen duvet cover, bakes himself in the sun and then moves around to the other side, he's
That's so great. And don't forget, the pets also need vitamin D, just like we do. I know a lot of people, they talk about SAD in people, which is a seasonal deficiency of vitamin D. Make the opportunity on the weekend, get out and get outside with your pet. Get them in the sun. We are energetic beings designed to recharge our battery under the sun. And this is the perfect time of year to do that because you'll feel so much better and so will your pet. Improve their quality of life. And just, as you say, spend time with your pet. Put your hat on, put your headband on, put your gloves on and get on out there.
Get on outside and use those joints, give them a rub down, treat them, give them good whole food, as we said, and supplement if they need it as well. Give them an extra boost. It's the perfect time of year. If you're not wanting to do it in summer, winter, we can't stress enough. Add more to their bowl now. It's going to come back in spades.
So quercetin is known as nature's antihistamine. So if you have a pet that's itchy, then quercetin, of course, is from blueberries. That will reduce the allergic response naturally, but it is also in your senior doggy daily. But start now. Don't wait for them to be itchy. You have to bank stores now. And also your mushroom supplement is very helpful for supporting immune regulation, gut health, diversification across the gut, and inflammatory balance. So every pet reacts differently, so we always tailor supplements to the pet. But in general, those things are very, very helpful for those dogs that are 5 to 8 plus. That's when we tend to see a lot of these symptoms. You can get away with sort of more processed food when the dogs are younger, 1, 2, 3. Not that we should, but you can. But unfortunately, it will always catch up. So, if you feed more whole food and add in supplements, you can actually reduce the reliance on drugs, and that's where the integrated approach to veterinary medicine is so helpful, and prevention is really powerful. So you want to reduce reliance on drugs like repeated antibiotics for ear infections, gets rid of the microbiome. We all know that it destroys the good guys as well as the bad guys, and it comes back worse. Steroids, of course, 30% increase if you feed your dog steroids in becoming diabetic, which none of us want a diabetic dog. So really it's got to be an absolute last resort once you've addressed all these other things that are easy to control. And if any excessive medication, some of the steroid medication thins the skin, and if it's used for too long, then of course you've got a damaged natural skin barrier. In contrast to the integrated way of approaching things, which is a combination, obviously, in veterinary medicine, where we use nutrition, rehabilitation, natural supplements and support, and really focusing on prevention. Prevention is where the power is, and that's where seasonal health checks are really, really important. So you can identify weight gain in your pet, skin disease, dental disease, arthritis that's going to become painful, ear disease and allergies. And the sooner you act on those things, the better the long-term outcome for pets. So for my patients, we almost have no antibiotics and no steroids because of all the building blocks that we routinely put in our regular checks. We're heading ahead of the curve. We're hunting for what might be, and then we put all of the support and first aid systems in place so that they're at home. So if this pops up, the owner will treat it with pet putty, and if this pops up, they might treat that with paw balm. Those are really, really helpful things to support your pet and understand how the seasons will affect their body.
Absolutely. Oh, well, awesome. I think that has really covered off seasonal allergies, Heidi. I think I've learned so much today as well. And I think it's just also been a great reminder of just the small things that you can do, which go so far.
That's great. That's cool. So yeah, focus on nutrition, natural anti-inflammatory support, healthy movement, skin health, gut health, and preventative veterinary care. And then your pet will live healthier, happier, but much more comfortable lives without allergies.
And much longer, hopefully, because everyone wants their pet to live forever.
Longevity. Yeah. So we all want our dogs to get to 22.
Oh,
and they do in countries around the world, interestingly enough. Japan, routine for dogs to live to 22.
How good. How good.
So have a look at what they do that we don't.
I will.
And maybe copy that.
Okay.
Right, have a great day.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.